Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Clay, and I am the Bucks believer. The 2021 NBA draft is just 5 days away, and with that being said, I think that it's really important that we break down each prospect that the Milwaukee Bucks could potentially select with the 31st pick in the draft. In order to do this, I've split up the prospects into 3 positional pools: guards, wings, and bigs, and over the next couple days, I'm going to be making a video on each of these positions and breaking down the players that are in the Bucks draft range at each spot. In today's video, we're going to be starting off with the guard position. The first player I'll be talking about in today's video is Deuce McBride. McBride is coming off of a breakout sophomore season at West Virginia, where he led Bob Huggins' team to a 3 seed while scoring 15.9 points per game. McBride showed a particular ability to score off of the jump shot, as he shot 41.4% from beyond the three-point arc on 3.8 three-pointers per game. He was especially great on catch-and-shoot three-point attempts, as he went 27 for 56 in those scenarios. That should translate very well into the Milwaukee Bucks system, as Chris Middleton and Giannis Antetokounmpo are 2 ball-dominant big wings who will create plenty of open catch-and-shoot opportunities for McBride. Deuce is also a good mid-range scorer who does a nice job of getting to his spots and using his shifty ball handling and handle to create some space for himself to get that shot off. Deuce also has a high level of defensive upside, as he has a fantastic frame at 6'2", 200 pounds with a 6'9" wingspan. He's very switchable and should be able to guard 1 through 3 across the lineup. McBride also flashes potential as a defensive playmaker, as he posted a 3.1% steal rate and a 1.7% block rate in his 2 seasons at West Virginia. He also averaged 4.8 assists per game with a near 3-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio, so he does a really nice job of finding open teammates and making good decisions to take care of the basketball. One of McBride's flaws is that he's not a great finisher, as he was just a 43.9 two-point shooter this past season. But with that being said, he should be able to run a second unit at a very high level because of his playmaking and shooting, and I think that there's potential for him to even be a starter at some point in his career as a secondary ball handler alongside a big wing shot creator. I think that the Bucks would be a great place for him, and he would be an absolute steal for Milwaukee if he's still on the board at 31. Another option for the Bucks at 31 is Trey Mann. Mann is coming off of a really solid sophomore season at Florida, in which he led the Gators to an NCAA tournament run. He was the leading scorer on this team, averaging 16 points per game, and most of that scoring came with his jump shot, as Mann was terrific from beyond the arc last season, shooting 40.2% from 3 on 4.7 attempts per game. Mann is particularly fantastic on pull-up three-pointers, as he went 41 for 78 on those shots last season. Mann shows a terrific ability to generate space for himself using his step-back move, and he's also great at making defenses pay out of the pick and roll, as he's able to pull up for three-pointers as far out as 30 feet. That's a skill set that we've seen from NBA stars really pop in the past couple of years. Guys like Steph Curry, Dame Lillard, and Trae Young, and Mann's shooting ability is definitely the most intriguing thing with him moving into his NBA career. He's also a solid short scorer in the mid-range, as he's developed a really solid floater shot, going 20 of 43 last season on those floaters. Unfortunately, he's not really a 3-level scorer because he can't get to the rim. He's not a very good finisher, and his short wingspan prevents him from having much upside there, but he does do things aside from scoring, as he had a fantastic 10.2% rebound rate. That's closer to what you would usually see from a small forward than what you'd see from a point guard, and Mann also posted a solid 2.4% steal rate to go along with his spectacular rebounding. Unfortunately, aside from the steals, Mann doesn't offer too much on the defensive end of the court, as he's not a good athlete and he's got a fairly short 6'4" wingspan. He's also only 190 pounds, so he's not very switchable and will likely be exposed if asked to guard larger players. Overall, his struggles on defense and as a passer, he only had a 3.5 assists per game to 2.8 turnover per game ratio last year, likely will prevent Mann from ever becoming a starter. I see him being more of a scorer off the bench in his most likely scenario. That's still a very useful player, but not necessarily what I'd be looking for if I were the Bucks. Another great shooter the Bucks could target in this draft is Bones Highland from VCU. This past season, Highland won the Atlantic 10 Player of the Year award and led the Rams to an NCAA tournament berth. Bones reminds me quite a bit of Emmanuel Quickley, someone who made the first team All-Rookie in the NBA last season as a high-level pull-up jump shooter who also is a solid defender because of his length despite being super skinny. Highland is genuinely one of the best three-point jump shooters in this draft class, as over the past 2 seasons at VCU, he's shot 39.9% from beyond the arc on 6 three-point attempts per game. Highland also has NBA range right away, as he made 36% of his three-point shots from 27 feet or further out. He's going to be a high-level pick-and-roll ball handler because of that ability to pull up from anywhere on the court, and he also is a very good mid-range scorer, as he shot 40% on mid-range jump shots last season. He hasn't really developed a floater yet, but because of his plus mid-range jumper, he might not ever need that shot to come along. Bones also is a very good finisher at the rim, as he's able to use his length to finish around big men and is very crafty when it comes to finishing. Highland is a genuine 3-level scorer, but scoring isn't the only thing that he does well, as he's also a very active off-the-ball defender, posting a ridiculous 3.5% steal rate for VCU last season. He does a great job of using his plus length with a 6'9" wingspan to be very active off the ball. Unfortunately, he can't have the same impact as an on-the-ball defender, as he's very skinny, weighing just 175 pounds. However, if Bones is able to build up that frame in the G League over the next couple years, he's got a chance to be a very good player, especially if he can also improve his decision-making, as he had a negative assist-to-turnover ratio last season, averaging 2.1 assists and 3.1 turnovers per game. Highland is someone that I really like for the Bucks because of his high-level ability as a jump shooter. He probably won't be able to play right away for Milwaukee because of his defense, but I could see him coming around at some point as a solid 5th starter or a plus 6th man in the NBA. That's a really solid pick at 31, and he's someone I'd be very interested in if I were Milwaukee. Another player the Bucks should very strongly be considering with the 31st pick is Ayo Dosunmu from Illinois. Dosunmu is probably my favorite option that could potentially be available for the Bucks at 31, as he is both a fantastic player and a very good fit with Milwaukee. He was probably one of the 5 or so best players in the entire NCAA last season, so it's pretty shocking to me that he could potentially be available in the second round. However, some folks have some pretty huge questions about his jump shot. Last season he shot 39% from beyond the arc, but his form is still a little bit wonky, and people think that his 34% career mark at Illinois is a closer indicator to what his true shooting ability is. However, I'm buying the improvement that Dosunmu had last season, as the most important thing with a jumper is the fact that it goes in, and I'm somewhat able to ignore his strange form. Ayo is also capable of scoring in a variety of other ways, as he averaged 20.1 points per game at a solid 56.6 true shooting percentage, which is very good on an excellent Illinois team, as he was their leading volume scorer and was playing in a defense-centered league in the Big Ten. Dosunmu is great in transition, as he's excellent at getting downhill and finishing with his athleticism, and he's also a very good passer in transition. In addition to the fast break scoring, Dosunmu is also great in the mid-range, where he shot 46% last season. He's also a very high-level pick-and-roll ball handler, and he's great at finding roll men for lobs. Last season, that meant finding Kofi Cockburn, one of the best centers in the Big Ten, 4 lob passes, and if he comes to the Bucks in the draft, that will likely mean establishing a pick-and-roll chemistry with Giannis Antetokounmpo, and that's a combination that I think could be absolutely fantastic for Milwaukee moving forward. Dosunmu is also a great on-ball defender who can switch 1 through 3 because of his excellent frame at 6'5" with a 6'10" wingspan. Dosunmu also navigates screens very well, which is very important when you're playing in a Milwaukee Bucks scheme that's reliant on its guard defenders being able to get over screens and to contest shots from the rear. Like I said before, Dosunmu is an inconsistent three-point shooter, and sometimes he plays lackadaisical off-ball defense, but other than those 2 small flaws, I think that Ayo is one of the best players in this draft that's going to be available outside of the lottery, and if he's available for the Bucks with the 31st pick, they should absolutely gobble him up. I think there's a chance that he's ready to play in the NBA right now as a rotation player on a good team, and he's got some upside to be a starter one day. He's also a great fit with the Bucks because of his lob passing ability as well as his switchable defense, and I'd be very, very excited if Milwaukee was able to take him with the 31st pick. Josh Christopher is a very different player from anyone else I've talked about so far. He is very much a project, as he was just a freshman at Arizona State, and he really struggled in his freshman year. He scored 14.3 points per game, which is fantastic, but almost all of his production comes at the basket. He's a really good finisher in transition, where he can use his athleticism to make plays like this, and he also is great at drawing fouls, as he shot 80% from the free throw line on 3.7 free throws per game. Other than the free throws, he doesn't do much as a shooter, however, as he was very inconsistent this past year, shooting just 30.5% from beyond the arc and 31.9% from mid-range. When you consider the high volume with which he takes those contested jump shots, it's really a problem that he's not a great shooter, and he's either going to have to improve his decision making as a shooter or improve his jump shot. Otherwise, he's probably just going to be a very inefficient scorer in general. He does have some flashes as an on-ball defender, as he has a great frame at 6'5", 215 pounds with a 6'9" wingspan. He uses that frame to be a genuine defensive playmaker, as he posted a 2.7% steal rate and a 1.9% block rate in his lone season at Arizona State, but he's generally pretty inconsistent on defense, as he's oftentimes caught not paying attention off the ball, and he also really struggles to navigate screens, which is important with the Bucks and makes him a pretty poor fit with Milwaukee. He has more upside to become a high leverage starter than probably any other player that I'm going to talk about in this video, but it's going to take him a long time to get there, and considering the Bucks are in a win now time frame for the foreseeable future, I don't necessarily think that this is a pick that they should make. Jason Preston out of Ohio is the best passer that I'm going to be talking about in this video. He posted an outstanding 38.4 assist rate for the Bobcats as he led his team to an NCAA tournament berth and an upset over Virginia last season. Preston is one of the best decision makers out of the pick and roll in this draft class, as he does a terrific job of making the right decision, posting a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, and he also makes some flashy passes, as he's a terrific guy at making pocket passes to big men rolling to the basket, and he also has some wildly impressive cross-court skip passes to shooters in the weak side quarter. In addition to his great passing, Preston is also a very good rebounder for a guard, posting a 12.2% rebound rate that's reminiscent of a power forward. Clearly, he has great feel for the game, both as a passer and a rebounder, and he also shows some potential as a shooter, as he shot 39% from the three-point line this past season on 4.1 shots per game. Unfortunately, his shooting is pretty streaky, as during conference play, he was all the way down at 24.2% from beyond the arc, and he also isn't a very good free throw shooter, shooting just 59.6% from the line this past season, so in general, I'm not super willing to buy his jump shot. He is a good finisher at the rim, shooting 66.2% at the basket, and he also can knock down floaters at 43% mark last year, so he has potential to become a 3-level scorer if he ever can get the jump shot down. I just don't necessarily see that happening. Preston also has some solid defensive tools for a point guard at 6'4" with a 6'9" wingspan, but he's still pretty skinny at only 180 pounds, and he's often targeted by defenses and can be taken advantage of. His shooting and defense are probably going to hold Preston back from ever becoming a starter, but I do think that there's a very real chance that he becomes a solid backup point guard at some point in his professional career. The next player I'm going to touch on here is David Johnson from Louisville, who I'm not the biggest fan of. His best skill is definitely his passing, and he made some really impressive plays en route to averaging 3.2 assists per game last season, but he gives almost all of that back with his poor decision making, as he averaged 3.3 turnovers per game as well to have a negative assist to turnover ratio. He does show some potential as a jump shooter, knocking down 38.6% of his 4.4 three-pointers per game last season, but he's one of the worst off-the-dribble shooters I've ever seen, going just 10 of 59 on off-the-dribble jumpers, and he's also only a 65% career free throw shooter, so I'm not exactly certain that his improved jump shot this season is an accurate representation of where his jumper is. He does have potential as a defensive playmaker, posting impressive 2.1% steal rate and 1.3% block rate, but he doesn't move his feet well, so he's forced to spot extra space to the on-ball defender, and that can lead to him getting blown by quite frequently, so I can't necessarily see him ever being anywhere close to being a good defender, and that in combination with his poor first step and inconsistent jump shooting make me think that he's a project and not a very promising one at that, so the Bucks are probably better off passing on him if he's available at 31. The eighth and final guard that I consider to be within the Bucks draft range is Rosco Jokubitis from Lithuania. Jokubitis is a really intriguing player to me who I like quite a bit, as he's a very good point guard out of the pick and roll, posting a near 3-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. He's also very good at getting to the basket and finishing out of the pick and roll, shooting 61% at the rim. He's very dependent on the screens to get to the basket though, and he's not someone who can attack out of isolation, which really limits his upside. However, Jokubitis is a solid three-point shooter, knocking down 38.8% of his shots from beyond the arc last season. He's particularly good on catch and shoot jumpers, shooting 39% on those, but he does struggle a little bit on pull-ups, going just 28% on off-the-dribble threes. However, he does have a pretty solid looking shot on those pull-up jumpers, so I think that there's some potential for him to expand that shot and improve it moving forward. He's an okay defensive player, but he's not a great athlete, which really limits how impactful he's able to be on that end of the court. He does a nice job of being in the right spot. He's just able to be exposed for being the small point guard that he is sometimes. With that being said, I still think that Jokubitis is a solid player who has a chance to carve out a Monte Morris-esque career as a backup point guard in the NBA. He also could be a draft and stash, which could be intriguing to some teams. He's not a great fit with the Bucks because of his defensive weaknesses, but if he's someone that they like quite a bit, I definitely could get behind this being the pick. Thank you all for watching this video. This took a lot of hard work and research, so I really appreciate you watching to this point. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, especially if you are a fellow Bucks believer. This is the place for you. Also, let me know in the comment section down below which of these guards you would like to see the Bucks select with the 31st pick. I think that I've covered everything that I wanted to cover, so that's going to be it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you all again very soon.